It is relatively easy to use the four variables described in the previous video to segment a market. However, finding those groups that can drive revenue and profitability is substantially more challenging. Ultimately, demographic, geographic, psychographic, and behavioral variables are only proxies for what a business really wants to know. That is, which market segments offer the greatest potential return on investment. To evaluate the results of a segmentation process, businesses should consider four key criteria. First, are the segments clearly different from each other, while within each segment, individuals have a great deal of similarity? Marketers call this being in-group homogeneous and out-group heterogeneous. This is an important criterion because if individuals within each segment are not similar, for example in their needs, wants, preferences, values, etc., then it will be difficult to tailor an effective value proposition that appeals to the entire group. Similarly, if the segments are not sufficiently distinct from each other and the rest of the market, it is not clear that it is worth investing in the development of a unique value proposition for each group. Second, are the segments accessible? In some cases, the segmentation process will identify groups that are not easy to reach or communicate with directly. For example, many businesses would like to target the most affluent houses in Canada. Of course, so would many other organizations, and as a result, those households can be very difficult to access directly. It makes little sense to craft a value proposition for market segments that are inaccessible. Third, we need to ask if the segments are sizable. That is, are they big enough? The answer to this question depends on the size of the business and its ambitions. A small specialty boutique might need less than 1,000 total customers, in which case segments of a couple hundred people are probably large enough. In contrast, Loblaws cannot afford to focus on segments of 100 people because it serves millions of customers right across the country. Although in theory, focusing on individual customers allows a business to provide the most customized products and personalized advice, the potential return on investment must always play a prominent role in determining how fine-grained a segmentation scheme will be. Fourth, we should ask if the segments have distinct response profiles. Even when the first three criteria are met, a segment will not be of much value if the individual members respond in a variety of different ways to the same offer. For example, a startup company might find that some people have a preference for sweeter ketchup, while others prefer a saltier flavor. Their research could even pick out a niche segment that likes ketchup with maple syrup, or the extra heat that comes from the addition of habanero chilies. This company might be satisfied that these segments meet the first three criteria and they feel like they're ready to go to market. However, if the ketchup buying public is standing at the grocery store's shelf and they always opt to purchase Heinz ketchup regardless of their different taste preferences, then they do not have distinct response profiles. Similarly, Hudson's Bay might identify women between 35 and 50 as a key segment in their market with considerable buying power. However, that level of segmentation may be insufficient if within that group there are substantial differences. Those differences could be in terms of psychographics. Some customers might be interested in certain product categories, and others not so much. Some might be more price sensitive, and others more willing to spend. There could also be differences in behavior. Some customers might want to shop all year round and primarily for themselves. Other customers might be shopping only at Christmas and only for gifts they're buying for other people. If that's the case, then Hudson's Bay does not have a distinct response profile among women between 35 and 50. Focusing on a very broad market segment may not help the company take meaningful action that contributes to profitability, because this segment is too general and subgroups within this segment behave in too many different ways. The lack of a distinct response profile can be a strong signal of weak segmentation. Target market selection. Having broke a large market up into smaller segments, the next step is to evaluate the potential of each of those segments. The objective is to select the smaller groups that offer the greatest potential revenue and profitability. Competition can come into play here. It's important to consider what the company can do as compared to other firms selling similar products or services. There are 3 criteria to consider when evaluating a company's capabilities relative to the competition and the potential target segments that have been identified. First, are these the right segments for now and the future? This question highlights the fact that segments will evolve over time, as will the ability of the company and the competition to serve them. Segmentation, target market selection, and positioning are not one-time projects. Instead, they are ongoing processes at the core of strategic decision-making. Although consumers' preferences will change over time, most businesses will choose target segments that they expect to be able to serve into the foreseeable future. However, it is considerably more difficult to generate an acceptable return on investment if the market segments are expected to change substantially in the short term. Our second criteria is how will targeting the chosen segments affect your brand, both within these segments and within the broader population. In some cases, a deep dive into the segmentation process can obscure the bigger picture. For example, a luxury brand might see an opportunity to grab market share within a price-sensitive segment through aggressive discounts. However, doing so is likely to impact the company's brand image as well as its ability to charge higher prices in other segments. Similarly, a fitness club that chooses to target hardcore bodybuilders might run the risk of alienating a much larger segment of more casual athletes. Our third criteria for selecting a target market segment is, does the company have the necessary competencies to generate an acceptable return on investment from the target segments? This is the big question. There are times when a business will decide not to target an attractive segment because the company lacks the ability to deliver the requisite value. For example, a boutique bakery chain may decide to avoid selling to restaurants that would like to serve their breads because they do not have the ability to produce on that scale. Or the bakery may simply decide to delay entry into that restaurant segment while it invests in the ability to serve those customers effectively. Similarly, a ski and snowboard retailer may see an opportunity in selling bikes to its customers in the summer, but lack the product knowledge and sales staff required to compete with specialized cycling stores. Ultimately, selecting the right target market and finding a good fit between the company and the target customer is critically important to successful marketing. When that fit is weak or the segment poorly defined, businesses tend to spend a lot of money trying to convince people to buy what they're selling. When the fit is strong and the target segments are well defined, businesses can focus on serving people who are eager to buy.